Good morning, sixth graders. Welcome to the Independent Station. Before we get started, I want to give you a heads up. There are a couple typos on your materials and mistakes, so make sure you're listening closely to where I tell you that it's different than what's written here. So make sure you're turned to where it says exit ticket instructions. You're going to actually get started on this now. Today's going to work a little bit different than usual because our exit ticket's a little bit different than usual. So today I'm going to be collecting one chapter of your Hatchet text. It says you can choose which chapter to give me, but it's going to be chapter 5 is what I will collect. You can X it out and write it on your paper. Chapter 5 is in your packet. You will also use the remainder of the block to spend that time on chapter 5, marking up your text with the 4 strategies Paulson has used to teach us about Brian. So we already know inner dialogue, repetition, character reactions, and you're going to take that a step further today and write about character decisions. So first of all, on your paper, you can go ahead and annotate this anywhere. Make sure that you realize a reaction is something that you do involuntarily. It's like you have an automatic response to something. If you see that a dog is about to attack your friend and you jump in front of your friend to save them, that's a reaction. But character decisions are a little bit different. Decisions are choices that we make. They're intentional choices. So if, for example, you find out your friend is in the hospital because they got attacked by a dog, and then you go to visit them and bring them some treats, that's a choice. See the difference between reactions and choices? So today you are going to annotate chapter 5. It's in your packet, and you are going to mark it up anytime you see inner dialogue, repetition, a reaction that Brian has to something, or a decision that Brian makes. You must also make a little note to yourself in the margin what that taught us about Brian. So if you underline or circle the word help because it's there a few times, you should write repetition. And then you should also write, this taught me that Brian really needs help. You are also going to annotate for any details about setting a character that will help you build a strong narrative on Friday. So remember, like you watched in that video yesterday, on the Friday writing task, you're going to write a story about what happens with Brian and an animal he's going to encounter in chapter 7. So in order to do that well, I kind of want you also marking up for details about setting a character that you're going to include in your story. So here's your grading rubric for your exit ticket. I know this has been a lot of me talking. Just one last thing, then you're going to get started. So your exit ticket grade is going to be out of 6 today. And your exit ticket is going to be me collecting chapter 5 to see how well you marked it up. So I want to see that you highlighted repetition. And if you only highlighted one thing, there's actually a lot of repetition there. So you're not going to get credit for this. I won't give you a 1 for that. I want you to try and catch as much repetition as you can. Then inner dialogue, reactions, decisions. And you also must always explain somewhere in a little note, like I said, what you learned about Brian from this in the margins or somewhere next to it on that page. And then also make sure that you're taking note of some things that are going to help you build a strong narrative Friday. Before you write, go through the next few pages in your packet. I have included a few examples. Huge shout outs to Trinity, Tasia for me getting to include in your packet. They're awesome annotations. They have already started finding one of those strategies and then leaving little notes about what we learned about Brian from that or how Paulson uses that strategy. You should use the rest of the time at the Independent Station to mark up chapter 5. No one is allowed to be done yet. I do not want to see someone at the Independent Station saying, I'm done, I finished, I took out my book. Try and find as much in chapter 5 as you can possibly find. Because I know that if you're writing detailed explanations in the margins, you would take up all this time. Also, if you really do think you're finished with that, then go ahead through the other chapters. You should have them in your ELA binder and try and mark those up too. Again, this is your exit ticket. Not just the highlights, but the notes that you make about what we learned from Brian.